Here is something no one warns you about after narcissistic abuse. The gaslighting does not stop when the relationship ends. It lives on inside your own head. In the second guessing, the indecision, the constant quiet question, but what if I'm the one who got it wrong? This is episode 5 of the recovery series, and it's about rebuilding the thing the abuse damaged most, your ability to trust your own mind. Let's go back to Ella. The fog had lifted. She'd held no contact, grieved the ghost, and was, by now, genuinely healing. And yet she noticed something strange and unsettling. She would stand in a shop, unable to choose between two simple things, paralyzed by a decision that should have taken 5 seconds. She would replay a clear memory and suddenly hear his voice in her head. That's not how it happened. You're remembering it wrong. She had her own thoughts and immediately distrusted them. If you recognize that, the indecision, the self-doubt, the feeling that you've somehow lost your own compass, then understand this. It is not a flaw in your character, and it is not permanent. It is an injury, and like any injury, it can heal with the right care and a little time. So let's name exactly what happened. For months, maybe years, every time you trusted your own perception, it was corrected. You said, "That hurt me," and you were told you're too sensitive. You said, "I saw you do that," and you were told you're imagining things, you're crazy. Drip by drip, you were trained to do something catastrophic, to outsource your reality to someone else, to check your own experience against his version before you'd let yourself believe it. And that training does not vanish the day you leave. So now you stand in your own life with a broken instrument, your inner sense of what is true and real, and you reach for it, and you don't trust what it tells you. That is the wound of gaslighting, not the arguments, the lasting damage to your ability to know your own mind. You can see this injury in very specific symptoms, and naming them helps, because they can feel like you're going crazy when really you're just healing. The first is chronic indecision. Even tiny choices feel impossible, because for years your choices were punished or overruled, so your brain learned that deciding is dangerous. The second is reflexive self-doubt. You have a thought, a feeling, a memory, and your instant next move is to question whether it's valid. The third is outsourcing. You find yourself desperate for other people to confirm your reality, asking, "Am I overreacting? Am I crazy? Did that really happen?" Because you no longer trust yourself to answer. And the fourth, the quietest and saddest, is that you may have lost touch with your own preferences entirely. Your tastes, your opinions, the music you like, the things you want, because for so long your job was to want what he wanted, and to have no needs of your own. If any of that is you, please hear me. None of it means you are broken. It means you were systematically taught not to trust yourself. And what was taught can be untaught. So let's rebuild. And we do it the same way you rebuild any kind of strength, with small, repeated, deliberate practice. The first tool you already have, your reality anchor, the written record from episode 1. This is its real purpose. On the days your mind tries to rewrite the past into something softer, you do not have to win the argument in your head. You simply open the notebook and read what you wrote when you were clear. The page does not gaslight. Trust the record over the fog, every single time, until the day you no longer need it. The second tool is decision practice, and it's smaller and more powerful than it sounds. You rebuild self-trust the way you rebuild a muscle, by using it, gently, over and over. So start absurdly small. Choose what you want for lunch, and do not second-guess it. Pick the movie. Decide, on your own, with no one to consult, and then honor the decision. Each tiny choice you make and stand by is a rep, a small, quiet proof to your own nervous system that you can decide, and the sky will not fall. Stack enough of those reps, and one day you'll realize you trust yourself with the big things again. And expect the doubt to fight back, because it will. You'll make a clear decision and feel a flush of panic an hour later. You'll remember something plainly, and then hear that old voice. "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Trying to pull the ground out from under you again. When that happens, I don't want you to argue with the doubt or try to win against it. I just want you to name it. That's the gaslighting talking, not me. The doubt is not new information. It is an old echo, a groove worn into your mind by someone who needed you uncertain so he could stay in charge of the truth. You do not have to obey an echo. You can hear it, recognize it for the residue it is, and gently keep walking anyway. Every time you do that, every time you feel the doubt and trust yourself regardless, the groove gets a little shallower. That is what healing this actually looks like, not the absence of doubt, but no longer letting it drive. The third tool is the most important, and it is a sentence I want you to learn by heart. It was real because I lived it. You do not need his confirmation that the abuse happened. You will never get it, and you do not need it. You do not need anyone else to validate your reality before you're allowed to believe it. The standard for what is true is no longer his version or anyone's version. The standard is your own experience. It happened. You were there. It was real because you lived it. Say it to yourself whenever the old doubt creeps in, until the day it becomes the most natural thing in the world to simply believe yourself. And then comes the part that is almost joyful after so much pain, rediscovering who you actually are. Somewhere under all the years of shrinking yourself to fit him, there is a person with real tastes and real opinions and real desires. Go and find her. Try things on purpose just to see what you think. Notice what you genuinely enjoy when there is no one to please and no one to fear. Reclaim the music, the food, the friends, the small ordinary preferences that got quietly erased. Every time you choose something simply because you like it, you are not just having a nice day. You are rebuilding a self that was taken apart. You are coming home to yourself. So let me give you one small daily practice to hold all of this together, because reality is rebuilt in the ordinary moments, not the grand ones. Once a day, ask yourself a simple question and answer it honestly, just for you. What do I actually think about this? Not what would keep the peace, not what someone wants to hear. What do you genuinely think? It can be about anything: a film, a news story, dinner, how your day went. The content does not matter at all. What matters is the muscle, forming an opinion that is yours and letting it stand without running it past anyone for approval. For so long, your inner world was a place you had to censor and second-guess. This practice slowly makes it yours again, a place where your own thoughts are allowed to simply be true because they're yours. Do that once a day and watch how, week by week, the voice in your head starts to sound like you again and not like him. Let me place this on the map. The recovery series is 10 steps. You lifted the fog, built the no-contact wall, survived the Hoover, and grieved the ghost. And now, step 5. You rebuild reality. You teach yourself, slowly and stubbornly, to trust your own mind again. This is the step where you stop living in his version of the truth and move back into your own. From here, in step 6, we go deeper still, into the body, which holds the trauma long after the mind understands it. But the mind comes first. First, you take back what is real. So here is where I'll leave you at the end of step 5. Your mind was not weak. It was overpowered, deliberately, by someone who studied how to do it. And the very fact that you are now noticing the self-doubt, questioning the questioning, is proof that your own judgment is already coming back online. Trust the record. Make the small choices. And say it until you believe it. It was real because I lived it. You are not crazy. You never were. You are simply a person learning, after a long time in someone else's fog, how to trust your own eyes again. And you will. In episode 6, we turn to something the talking cannot reach on its own, the body. Why your nervous system still braces for danger that isn't coming, and how to finally teach it that it's safe. That's where we go next. I'll see you there. And before you go, this matters, so please take it in. This series exists to help you understand what happened and to feel less alone in it. But it is not therapy, and I am not your therapist. Rebuilding trust in your own mind after this kind of harm is real, deep work, and you do not have to do it alone. If you are struggling or you feel unsafe in any way, please reach out today to a licensed professional or a support line where you live. You deserve real, human support alongside anything a video can offer. Be patient with yourself. You are healing an injury, not fixing a flaw. I'll see you in step 6.